Crime and Punishment is a novel from 1866, written by the Russian author Fyodor Dostoevsky. It's not just a story, it's a deep dive into the human mind and societal norms. This book is famous for its complex characters and ideas about right and wrong, guilt and redemption. Our focus here is to explore the clash between Nietzschean philosophy and traditional moral values. Dostoevsky wrote Crime and Punishment before Nietzsche's philosophies became well known. That means any references to Nietzschean concepts in the novel are not direct influences, but rather coincidences and parallels. Nietzsche's ideas are used as tools to understand the main character's actions and beliefs, a clash of existential questions. Dostoevsky, a titan of the 19th century Russian literature, was influenced by the socio-political landscape of his time. His works, including Crime and Punishment, often deal with deep philosophical and existential questions. His writing is marked by its exploration of psychological realism, moral philosophy, and the human condition. His Christian orthodoxy played a crucial role in shaping his worldview. Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher, emerged shortly after the publication of Crime and Punishment. His philosophies work well for a retrospective analysis of Dostoevsky's moral explorations. Central to Nietzsche's philosophy is the concept of the Übermensch, an individual who transcends conventional morality to create personal values. Nietzsche criticized traditional moral frameworks, particularly Christian morality, as life-denying and advocated for re-evaluation of values based on individual strength and freedom. His concept of God is dead questions the foundations of religion and moral absolutes. Even though Dostoevsky and Nietzsche never interacted, the side-by-side comparison of the ideas highlight the contrast, especially regarding moral relativism and the nature of evil. During the time Crime and Punishment was written, Russia underwent significant turmoil, grappling with modernization while holding onto orthodox traditions and autocratic governance. Various intellectual movements emerged, such as nihilists and Slavophiles, creating tension and providing a backdrop for Dostoevsky's exploration of moral and philosophical themes. The story centers on Rodion Raskolnikov, a former student in St. Petersburg who is under financial strain. His life takes a dark turn when he murders a pawnbroker and her sister, believing this act is justified as it eliminates a malevolent person and could potentially lead to benefits. His crime, however, plunges Raskolnikov into a state of profound guilt and fear. The novel explores his interactions with key figures in his life, such as his sister Dunya, his friend Razumichin, and Sonia, a compassionate woman who becomes a moral beacon for him. Raskolnikov's journey through the narrative is a turbulent struggle with his own justifications for the murder and the harsh reality of his actions. The protagonist is a complex character whose actions and inner turmoil resonate with Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch, or overman. Nietzsche's Übermensch is an individual who transcends traditional morals to create new values, representing self-mastery and existential courage. We need a critique of moral values. The value of these values should itself, for once, be examined. What if morality itself were to blame if man, as a species, never reached his highest potential power and splendor? Raskolnikov's theory of the extraordinary man echoes this concept. He believes that certain individuals stand above the moral constraints that govern ordinary society. These extraordinary individuals, in his view, are entitled to go beyond moral boundaries if their ultimate aim is to benefit humanity. This notion justifies the murder of a pawnbroker, which he rationalizes as a means to a greater end. In the novel, Raskolnikov's admiration for Napoleon symbolizes his belief in the concept of the extraordinary man. He views Napoleon as a figure who, despite causing widespread destruction, is celebrated for his historical impact and assertiveness. Nietzsche similarly admired Napoleon, seeing him as an embodiment of the will to power and a revolutionary force in European history. This admiration for Napoleon is reflective of a wider trend where exceptional leaders are admired for their achievements, often overshadowing the ethical consequences of their actions. If you achieve something great, 1,000,000 deaths are fine with me. This bold statement is a harsh truth in our world, where success can overshadow moral transgressions. Nietzschean moral relativism suggests that what is considered moral is subjective and bound to the perspectives of individuals. Raskolnikov's thoughts frequently touch upon this idea. He struggles with conventional moral judgments and the law, finding himself at odds with them. He attempts to position himself beyond good and evil, aligning with Nietzsche's critique of traditional morality. Ordinary men have to live in submission, have no right to transgress the law, because, don't you see, they are ordinary. But extraordinary men have a right to commit any crime and to transgress the law in any way, just because they are extraordinary. However, Dostoevsky does not allow Raskolnikov's Nietzschean aspirations to go unchallenged. The novel vividly portrays the conflict between Raskolnikov's intellectual justifications, grounded in Nietzschean philosophy, and his innate moral conscience. His psychological turmoil, guilt, and eventual confession undermine the Nietzschean ideal of the emotionless, morally independent Übermensch. This conflict highlights a crucial critique of Nietzschean philosophy, the inherent human struggle with conscience and the unavoidable reality of guilt and remorse. Dostoevsky's portrayal of moral conflict is grounded in the traditional Christian ethics prevalent in 19th century Russia. The novel presents a world where moral absolutes still hold sway, and deviations from these moral laws inevitably lead to psychological turmoil and societal judgment. This is most evident in Raskolnikov's character, who, despite his intellectual arrogance, cannot escape the innate sense of right and wrong, ingrained in him by his cultural and religious upbringing. Initially, Raskolnikov justifies murdering the pawnbroker under his theory of the extraordinary man. However, post-crime, he faces an unexpected onslaught of guilt and despair. This intense emotional struggle highlights the unavoidable nature of moral conscience. Raskolnikov's experiences illustrate the idea that moral laws are not just societal constructs but are deeply rooted in the human psyche. Dostoevsky uses suffering and guilt as instruments of moral reckoning and salvation. Raskolnikov's journey from denial to acceptance of guilt symbolizes a path to redemption. This path aligns with Christian values where confession, repentance, and suffering are seen as steps towards spiritual salvation. The novel reinforces the idea that moral transgressions inevitably lead to internal and external consequences. This moral framework contrasts with Nietzschean philosophy. While Nietzsche advocates for a re-evaluation of morals and the rise of the Übermensch above traditional moral values, Dostoevsky's narrative seems to validate the persistent role and necessity of established moral structures. Raskolnikov's eventual submission to these moral laws can be seen as a criticism of Nietzschean moral relativism, highlighting the dangers of living beyond conventional moral boundaries. Raskolnikov's journey in Crime and Punishment can be seen as a blend of Dostoevsky's moral views and Nietzsche's philosophy. While he initially adopts a Nietzschean stance, believing he is above conventional morals, his ultimate surrender to guilt and confession reflects a return to traditional moral values. This shows that even someone who tries to live beyond morality cannot escape their inner conscience. The novel also acts as a bridge between Dostoevsky's ideas and existentialism. It explores themes like the struggle for meaning and the burden of freedom, which are central to existential thought. In today's context, the story of Raskolnikov resonates with modern dilemmas about right and wrong and the search for personal meaning. It shows that the struggle between new ideas about morality and traditional values is still relevant, with insights into ongoing debates about individual freedom and moral responsibility. Now, reflect on your views on morality. Do you align more with traditional values or philosophies like Nietzsche's? Raskolnikov's internal battle mirrors our conflicts in a world where moral lines are constantly blurred. This novel urges introspection about our moral compass in today's world. What is your stand?